What if everything you believe about speed is only part of the truth? For decades, Formula One told us a simple story. The bravest driver. The fastest car. The perfect lap executed at the limit of human courage. It's a story of heroes, instinct, and raw talent. A story that feels real because it's loud, dramatic, and visible. But it's also incomplete. Because long before the lights go out, before the engines scream, before a single tire touches the asphalt, championships are already being decided. Modern Formula One is no longer just a race. It's a live experiment in physics, probability, and information, conducted at more than 300 kilometers per hour. Every lap generates an invisible storm of data. Every corner, every brake application, every millimeter of steering input is measured, recorded, and transmitted. More data than a commercial aircraft produces during an entire flight. And while millions of fans focus on what happens on track, another race unfolds far from the cameras. A silent race. Fought in strategy rooms, factory floors, and server clusters spread across continents. Because in today's Formula One, speed alone is meaningless without intelligence. And intelligence is built from data. The modern F1 car is not just a machine. It is a sensor platform disguised as a race car. Hidden beneath carbon fiber and aerodynamic surfaces are hundreds of sensors measuring everything imaginable, and many things drivers can't even feel. Tire temperatures change by tenths of a degree. Brake components degrade in real time. Aerodynamic loads flex wings under forces no human body could withstand. Every second, millions of data points stream from the car to the pit wall, and instantly beyond, to factories thousands of kilometers away. This is not analysis after the race. This is live intelligence. Supercomputers run thousands of simulations during a single race weekend. What happens if we pit now? What if there's a safety car in 12 laps? What if our rival reacts instead of leading? Each possibility is calculated, predicted, and ranked in fractions of a second. The race you watch on Sunday is only the surface. The real competition is happening inside algorithms. And most fans never see it. For much of Formula One's history, decisions were made by instinct. Engineers listened to drivers. Drivers felt the car. Strategy was a blend of experience, courage, and educated guesswork. That era is gone. Today, strategy is probability under pressure. When a driver is told to box, that call may have been simulated thousands of times before it ever reaches the radio. Tire degradation curves. Traffic windows. Weather probability. Rival behavior modeling. A single pit stop can gain or lose 20 seconds. And that difference is often decided before the car even enters pit lane. While drivers fight wheel to wheel, teams fight model to model. The battlefield is no longer just the circuit, it's data. And behind every critical decision stands a group you rarely hear about. Data scientists. Race strategists. Simulation engineers. Machine learning specialists. People who never stand on the podium, but whose decisions define who does. In Formula One, heroes don't always wear helmets. Some wear headsets. Some stare at graphs. Some write code. They build virtual versions of cars, digital twins that race thousands of laps before the real car ever turns a wheel. They test strategies that will never be used, just to understand why they wouldn't work. They predict mistakes rivals haven't made yet. In this world, nothing is spontaneous. What feels like a bold decision in the heat of the moment is often the execution of a plan written days earlier. The driver is still essential. Talent still matters. Courage still matters. But talent now operates inside boundaries defined by data. And as technology advances, those boundaries grow tighter. Artificial intelligence now learns from past races. Adapts to changing conditions. Refines strategies in real time. The future of Formula One isn't just faster cars. It's smarter systems. Races increasingly decided not by instinct, but by prediction. So the next time you watch a car cross the finish line first, ask yourself, was that victory driven by bravery? By machinery? By skill alone? Or by unseen architects, designing championships in silence long before race day? Because in Formula One, the loudest battles aren't always the most important ones. And the real race is happening far beyond the track. If data is the invisible engine of modern Formula One, then strategy is its steering wheel. Because knowing everything means nothing, if you don't know what to do with it. Every race weekend begins long before Friday practice. Weeks earlier, teams feed historical data into simulation models. Track evolution, weather patterns, tire behavior, rival tendencies. Thousands of virtual races are run before a single real lap is completed. Some scenarios will never happen. Others will unfold with terrifying precision. By the time drivers arrive at the circuit, the future already exists, mapped out in probabilities. This is why modern strategy rarely feels impulsive. When a driver asks, Plan B or Plan C? Those plans were never equal. One has already been favored by the data. What looks like indecision on the pit wall is often confirmation. A final check against a model that's been running all weekend. Strategy today is not about reacting to chaos. It's about anticipating it. And nowhere is this more evident than during a safety car. To fans, the safety car is randomness. To strategists, it's a mathematical opportunity. In seconds, models recalculate gap losses, tire life, track position value. A decision made 10 seconds too late can erase hours of planning. Some championships have been won because an algorithm predicted chaos before it appeared. Others were lost because one assumption was wrong. In this environment, perfection is fragile. Because the more precise the system becomes, the more devastating its failures can be. Data doesn't eliminate risk. It redistributes it. And the pressure shifts from the driver to the strategist. Behind the pit wall, there is no adrenaline. Only numbers. Every radio message carries the weight of millions of calculations, and the knowledge that one error will be visible to the entire world. But even the most advanced systems face a fundamental problem. What happens when everyone has data? As regulations limit budgets and computing power, the gap narrows. Access becomes equal. Tools become similar. And when the data stops being an advantage, interpretation becomes everything. This is where the real war begins. Teams don't just model their own cars. They model their rivals. They study behavior patterns, aggression levels, pit stop tendencies, risk tolerance. They predict not only what a rival can do, but what they are likely to do. Strategy becomes psychological. An undercut isn't just about speed. It's about forcing a reaction. An overcut isn't patience. It's a trap. At this level, races resemble high-speed chess. Every move anticipates the next three. And yet, no matter how advanced the models become, one element remains unpredictable. The human. Drivers still make mistakes. They still overdrive. They still surprise. And when they do, the system must adapt instantly. This is where machine learning enters the sport. Algorithms that don't just follow rules but learn. They adjust predictions mid-race. Refine probabilities. Update strategies in real time. What was once impossible becomes routine. But this evolution raises a question no one wants to ask out loud. At what point does the driver stop being the decision-maker, and become the executor? Modern Formula One doesn't answer this question directly. Instead, it hides it behind success. As long as the car wins, no one complains. But the balance is shifting. The cockpit is no longer isolated. It's connected to a global network of intelligence. And every lap tightens that connection. The driver feels the car. The system sees the race. Together, they form something new. Not man versus machine. Not man controlled by machine. But man, amplified by data. And in this amplified world, the margin between victory and defeat shrinks to milliseconds. A single assumption. A single model. A single line of code. Because in Formula One, the future isn't guessed. It's calculated. And yet, there are moments when the numbers go silent. When reality breaks the model. When the algorithm hesitates. And when that happens, everything is exposed. Because the most dangerous moment in modern Formula One is not when data fails. It's when everyone trusts it completely. The moment data fails, silence takes over. Not the silence of empty grandstands, but the kind that fills a strategy room when every screen still works, and none of the answers make sense. Formula One likes to believe it has tamed uncertainty. That enough information can turn chaos into calculation. But motorsport has a cruel way of exposing arrogance. Because models are built on assumptions. And assumptions break. A tire behaves differently than expected. Weather arrives 5 minutes earlier. A rival takes a risk the algorithm never predicted. And suddenly, the system that felt invincible becomes fragile. Some of the most decisive moments in Formula One history weren't lost by drivers pushing too hard, but by data pointing in the wrong direction. An overcut that never materialized. A pit stop delayed by one lap too many. A strategy optimized for a future that never arrived. These failures don't look dramatic in the moment. They appear logical. Reasonable. That's what makes them so dangerous. Because data doesn't shout when it's wrong. It convinces. Inside the pit wall, doubt is expensive. Second-guessing the model feels like betrayal. And yet, some of the greatest victories in the sport have come from doing exactly that. From moments when a human overruled the numbers. A strategist who sensed something the data couldn't see. A driver who felt the grip disappearing before the sensors confirmed it. These moments are rare. And they are controversial. Because every time intuition wins, it challenges the system itself. Was the model flawed? Or did the human simply get lucky? Formula One hates that question. Luck doesn't fit neatly into spreadsheets. So teams search for a compromise. A balance between prediction and perception. Between machine certainty and human doubt. This balance defines the modern pit wall. Every decision is a negotiation. The data proposes. The humans decide. But the cost of being wrong is brutal. A single miscalculation can erase an entire season. Years of development. Millions in investment. And when that happens, the post-mortem begins. Data is replayed. Models are dissected. Assumptions are challenged. Not to assign blame, but to prevent it from happening again. In Formula One, mistakes are not emotional events. They are data points. Failures are studied with the same intensity as victories. Because every error becomes part of the system. This is how the sport evolves. Not through celebration, but through correction. And yet, no matter how refined the models become, the margin remains unforgiving. A race decided by 1/100th of a second. A championship by a single point. At this level, perfection is an illusion. The closer teams get to total information, the more exposed they become to the unknown. Because uncertainty never disappears. It just hides in smaller places. And this leads to a deeper truth about modern Formula One. The sport hasn't eliminated chaos. It has compressed it. The randomness that once spanned entire races now lives in single moments. Single laps. Single decisions. Which makes every choice heavier. Every number more dangerous. Every assumption critical. And as technology continues to evolve, the question is no longer whether data should be trusted. It's who carries the responsibility when it's wrong. The driver? The strategist? The engineer who built the model? Or the system itself? Formula One doesn't answer that. It moves on. Because the next race is already being simulated. The next decision already waiting. And somewhere, deep inside a server room, a model is running, preparing for a future that may never exist. Behind every decision, there is a human you will never see. They don't sit in the cockpit. They don't stand on the podium. And their names are rarely spoken on broadcast. Yet without them, nothing moves. They arrive at the factory before dawn and leave long after the data stops flowing. They don't feel the G-forces. They feel responsibility. Data scientists. Simulation engineers. Strategy analysts. They don't chase glory. They chase accuracy. In modern Formula One, these are the unseen architects. People who transform chaos into structure, and uncertainty into probability. People who design championships without ever touching the steering wheel. Their tools are not pedals or gear levers, but models, code, and prediction. They build digital twins of cars, virtual replicas that race thousands of laps in silence. Every configuration tested. Every scenario explored. Every failure experienced virtually, so it doesn't happen on track. This is where the future of Formula One is written. Not in carbon fiber, but in computation. Artificial intelligence now learns faster than any human ever could. It absorbs seasons of data in moments. It identifies patterns no engineer was trained to see. It doesn't get nervous. It doesn't feel pressure. And it never forgets. But it also doesn't feel fear. And that is where the sport reaches its most delicate edge. Because Formula One was never meant to be perfect. It was meant to be human. Courage matters because mistakes are possible. Skill matters because limits exist. If every decision becomes optimal, if every outcome is predicted, what remains of the race? This is the question Formula One is slowly approaching. Not whether data should be used, but how much control we are willing to give it. The cockpit is still occupied by a human. A person with instincts, emotions, and imperfections. And for now, that human still matters. Because when the system hesitates, when the model fractures, when the future refuses to follow the script, it is the driver who feels it first. And it is the strategist who must choose whether to trust the numbers, or trust the unknown. This tension is the soul of modern Formula One. Not man versus machine. But man alongside machine. Amplified. Restricted. Redefined. So the next time you watch a car cross the finish line first, when the fireworks explode and the anthem plays, remember this. That victory was not born in a single corner. Or a daring overtake. Or a perfect lap. It was built quietly. Patiently. In rooms you never see, by people you will never cheer. The unseen architects. Because in Formula One, the loudest moments are only the conclusion. And the real race was decided long before the lights went out.